Hello, everyone, and welcome back. Today, we're going to talk about season 1, episode 2 of Psych, and I am very excited for this one.
Me too. This
hmm
is a fun one. This is a fun one.
We're getting closer to the actual show, the actual cast, and their personalities, and everything that I love about the show. Last episode did not quite do it for me. So much stuff was off and different and undeveloped, and now I think next episode is when it really kicks back into it. But
Yeah,
I'm
the
really excited to talk about this one.
first episode definitely didn't hold true to psychability over the show. I mean,
hmm
plot-wise, it just wasn't there. So the title for this episode is The Spelling Bee, with two G's, we might add. It first aired in 2006 on July 14th. It was written by Steve Franks and directed by Mel Damsky. According to IMDb, Mel Damsky has directed dozens of movies, hundreds of hours of series television, everything from MASH starting in 1972 to Boston Legal to Psych and also Scorpion, if any of you watched that. He directed 23 episodes of Psych altogether. And there are some interesting facts about the writer of this show that we forgot to share last time. Steve Franks is the lead singer of the band, the Friendly Indians, who sing the theme song of the show. The song I Know You Know is a shortened version of the song The Best Man Lies from their Tiny Badness EP. The band started in 1991 and consists of Tim Meltrigger on lead guitar, Gizzy Jackson on bass, and Jason Barrett on drums. It also should be mentioned that Tim Meltringer was a staff writer on Psych.
I did try looking stuff up for this. I guess I kind of did it for last episode, but this one it started to feel more like the show was getting into its groove. So I did try looking up stuff from behind the scenes, and they just don't have it. I found a bloopers for the whole season, which I think was on the DVDs, but they just don't have any behind the scenes footage back then, I guess. I don't know. You get that on shows sometimes now where they'll record stuff behind the scenes, and I guess they have tweets and stuff where they post
Mhm.
pictures, and it just wasn't a thing, at that time, I guess. But it kind of was surprising that I couldn't find any video footage showing them behind the scenes, them talking about the show in development and how it started.
Maybe we should reach out to some cast members and see if we can get some inside information at some point.
That would be cool. There's probably
So,
some that we could get in touch with that might respond back
absolutely.
wanting
Yay,
to
social
recant their
media.
time. hmm
Exactly.
Yeah, we'll have to work on that and see
Um,
if we can get anything for the
exactly.
next couple episodes because that would be really cool to get some tidbits from on the set what it was like.
Things that you guys maybe can't find because we can't find it either. So,
Exactly.
would be fun.
So for this
Mhm,
episode, let's give our synopsis here.
mhm.
The Spelling Bee has come to town to Santa Barbara, and this year's contestants really raise the stakes. When a contestant passes out on stage, it raises some eyebrows, and there is concern that sabotage might be the answer. Psych is brought in to find out what happened, and during their investigation, the Spellmaster is killed. The gang must prove it was murder and catch the culprit in 2 days before the bee ends and everyone leaves. Also, in this episode, we meet Lassiter's new partner, and Sean has to work for his dad's help to solve the case.
Something Henry said he would never do.
hmm And Gus, said just one more time, just one more day. Yeah, that keeps happening. Just
So I think both of us have some, general thoughts about this episode, things we just are thinking. For me, this was like the real beginning. Right at the start, you meet Jules or Juliet. And there's a lot about her that sort of ties together Sean's relationship with the police department. So I really liked that aspect. It was much, much, much better than the original person cast and the original character as Lassiter's partner.
mhm.
So I think they needed to refresh that. So that was exciting to see. I also liked the fun in this episode. I really felt like, and we talked about this, episode one, the pilot, not the best. This one, you really got to see the fun and like the shenanigans and like the dynamic between the cast members, can totally see it here. Also, eh, just on a personal note, Sean is adorable. He's adorable. You just want to hug him throughout the whole episode. I love his character.
Especially the difference between season 8 Sean and season 1 Sean. Like you can tell he has changed. Like it's been 8
Yes.
years and like he looks more mature now than he did,
Mhm.
8 years ago. It's kind of crazy seeing the difference. Like he looks like he's a child in season
Mhm.
1 now comparatively, especially because I haven't seen this season in a while. I prefer the like season 2 and on personally. So it was interesting. It's interesting seeing him this young again, and it's just kind of funny.
I also
Um,
think the maturity comes across, like we or mentioned maturity. I think it comes across in his attitude too. And in these episodes, he is just very like fly by the seat of your pants kind of Sean. Like he's not, I don't know. In the later episodes, he tends to be a little more together about things.
yeah, yeah, I really enjoyed this episode as well. It was refreshing after last week's episode to see everyone closer to their actual characters, and um, I don't know. It's like they are starting. The actors are starting to mesh with the characters more, and it's starting to become like secondhand for some of the things. We see most of the set locations corrected and get a ton more character development, as well as Juliet, the new character. And this episode, I feel like Gus really gets his time to shine. He is responsible for so many clues this time, and we
So
also get to see
true.
the super smeller in action for the first time.
That's a great
Hmm.
moment too.
Yep. It's
And
one of the key things that sticks through the entire show.
in this episode too, it's like you don't know at this point how much of a role the super smeller will have in the series.
Right. It could
So it's
definitely be like a one-off thing, and they just
yes,
keep rolling with it.
it's so exciting that like it made it in because I mean, it's a great moment.
Hmm. So, whenever we get into the next part where we break down the episode, right from the beginning, we get our character introduction to Juliet. 15 seconds in, it's played by Maggie Lawson, and without her on the show, it's just been weird. Like that last episode, it's not that she's my favorite character, but the group dynamic without her was off, especially with Lassiter. Like Lassiter, she's like the Lassiter's like the vinegar and she's the honey. And especially in these first like season, like Lassiter does evolve over time and he becomes a fantastic character. But like right now he's still bitter about his partner or his
And right
former
now
partner.
he's just angry that he has this nemesis who's like doing better work than he is. So
Right.
and that's all you see of him is the like I'm angry at you. I don't want you here, Sean.
Right. But yeah, we get the introduction in the very beginning of the episode. We see Sean and Juliet in a diner. They talk a little bit, and we find out that Juliet is Lassiter's new partner and that she is new to the job. I do think we should point out a little inaccuracy here. There is this scene where she pulls out her gun and she's like shaking, and Sean is like, "First time pulling your gun?" In reality, Juliet is the detective. She wouldn't. This would definitely not be the first time she pulled her gun. You have to be a police officer before you're a detective. So it's a little bit stretched out, but it was still a good scene. It was a nice way for them to introduce each other and to point out that Juliet's new, and um, it gives them an opportunity to kind of help each other and learn from each other going forward.
And then 3 minutes 30 seconds. So exciting. So exciting. We have the theme song. We hear the theme song, we see the beautiful new green lettering, not the blue thing from last episode. And now it all feels familiar. And so that was nice to see in this episode.
Yes, green
And
lettering is definitely important.
and then leading right into our little first flashback of little Gus standing on the stage at the spelling bee and Sean feeding him the wrong letter and just killing his dream. Killed his dream. And Gus being so nervous, he just took what Sean said, ran with it, and got kicked out of the spelling bee right then. And I wondered in this moment, how did they stay best friends? Like how did that happen? How did Gus not go?
I
Like
wonder that several times throughout the entire show in these flashback scenes of like
Mhm.
any one of these could have been the straw that like breaks the camel's back here. But they stuck through it.
And
Um,
it's always Gus doing the forgiving. Gus is
yeah.
like, "Okay, fine, I still wanna hang out with you." Why? It's and we're glad he did, but why, you know?
Also in this scene, we see the two new young actors. The first one playing Gus is Julian Hill, and the second one playing Sean is Kyle Tepar, Tejpar. I really don't like Kyle, and Hill is just doesn't feel like Gus. Although, fun fact, that this is his first and only appearance as young Gus, who is Dule Hill's nephew. So
Mm,
even though there's a familial tie there, still just doesn't look like Gus to me. Just doesn't look like
mm-mm.
Dule Hill. I don't know.
No, I did think he did a good job with the mannerisms as he was walking off the stage. Like, I could totally see the way he reacted physically was kinda Gus-like.
Yes, the acting part was good. He just in his
Yeah.
face, he didn't look like him. Or and maybe I'm
Mhm.
just favoring the later Gus more, and maybe it might be something I never noticed the first time I saw it. That's very possible, but yeah,
Don't play favorites, Matt. Don't play
he just
favorites.
didn't vibe with me as much. But also I did find some other stuff in the opening scene with Juliet. During their introduction, we also get the very first instance of Sean's Juliet voice when he imitates her to get a
Mhm.
conversation started at the diner. Which that comes up a couple times in the future, and I love it every time it does. It always is
Mhm.
great banter between those two characters when that happens. Mainly in Juliet's reaction to whatever Sean is saying as her. We also get some scenes where we see into her purse and we see a picture of her parents, who that gets retconned later because we all know that that is not her dad. That is not the actor who plays her dad. We'll hit that
Mhm.
up later in case you don't know. But there is episode where we get more detail about Juliet's family and her past, and it's not accurate to what we see in episode 2.
Mhm.
Um, Side note, I don't know if this ever comes up. I feel like it has, and that's why I'm thinking it. In this scene where he sees the cat hair on her, Juliet is not a cat person. No way.
Mm, I don't know. I feel like that would be the animal she would have because it wouldn't need a lot of, like, upkeep, like a dog, you'd have to go walk all the time.
Yeah,
She
but
can be gone forever with a cat.
she wants to walk them. Like she wants to. I see her running like with the dog.
I totally see her with a cat.
We're gonna have to
Totally. I
we're gonna have to
but
table
you
this
know
for
what?
when I find evidence of this. I'm fairly
You know
certain
what, Matt?
she is said dog person.
I've heard it both ways.
Mm,
I know. I
I'm
know.
torn between whether to give you props or to disagree with you.
Well,
Um,
I think props are in order here. I'm just saying.
a little
Anyway.
of both, a little of both. I will definitely return to this and keep an eye out for her saying that she hates cats and loves dogs because I'm fairly certain
Okay.
that's what it works.
All right. We will see.
During the flashback scene, I did also think it was weird how they had the kids act. They're all, if you watch it, they're all just dead eye staring at Sean or at Gus up on stage, and it's a little bit creepy. How they have them all, they almost look like robots or just fake like dummies, just like sitting there. A little bit creepy for Gus on stage, especially during his acting. If he actually had to deal with that, if that one full scene that was filmed, being Julian Hill on stage, like recording that while all these like kids are just staring at him dead eyed with their mouths shut,
Mhm.
probably was probably intense.
A little unnerving. Yeah.
hmm In regards to what we talked about in the breakdown of the show, we have new locations for everything, and these are for the most part, I think these are the new permanent locations.
Oh, yeah. They're filming totally in Vancouver now.
hmm We have the real Psych set,
Hmm.
and this is at the very beginning of the show. Whenever we get into the introduction of the story, we get to see the Psych office, and it feels so much better. Even though the furniture is a bit odd, they have some funky looking furniture in there, it's so much closer to these characters'
Hmm.
personalities now. I was so excited to see it, and it's starting to feel more at home now to watch.
Although you do have to wonder, 'cause my mind goes to like the cost of everything. So
Yes,
I'm wondering,
exactly.
how do they have this enormous space? And I mean, because it's like 2 rooms,
Mhm.
and then they also have this, like, all brand new furniture in there, and so my thought process is, how did they afford this?
I literally wondered that whenever I saw the first episode when he walks in, into the diner. I was like, how does he pay for things? Because I mean, even if they had this last case, that's a couple $1,000s maybe,
Mhm.
and then they have this. I try not to think about it because the details
We
will
probably just need
unravel things.
we probably just need to understand that Sean's a resourceful guy. So, he's
Right.
figuring something out.
And I think
We
it mentions that Gus, later on, as his job, he makes like 48,000 a year,
Mhm.
and that's in California. And he also has his apartment and the psych office and Sean.
Yeah.
So yeah, the
And he has
eh,
all kinds of investments and all kinds of stuff too, later you find out,
right,
that he was
decorative pillowcases, dress
right.
shirts. But also I noticed that Sean rides in on a bike. I think that's the first and last time we ever see Sean ride in on a bike. Or there's a
I
couple
don't
times we
know.
see him exercise, but it does not happen often. That's something
Mm-mm.
that I think they ended up writing out of the character development.
And you gotta wonder why the bike if he had a motorcycle. But these are questions, just, I think they're just trying to make it interesting. So,
Yeah,
anyway.
they're like filling out the roles of each
Mhm.
character as they
I
go a little
I
bit.
definitely like the aesthetic, though, of the new office better. That was a great change in this episode, so I was happy to see that.
hmm But in this scene, Sean and Gus are in their office. Gus is watching the spelling bee and giving some background info on it. Then they get a call from the chief, and they are wanted at the spelling bee for possible sabotage.
And this too, you'll notice this is where Sean first gets his first piece of intel for this episode because looks and sees the inhaler immediately on the screen when they're
Yeah,
watching it. And
yeah,
so
he
he
notices
knows.
something's off with it. This is I really like this one because this felt like I could have picked this dialogue out of
Mhm.
quotes and been like, "Oh, this is Sean and Gus. This is Psych." Sean just made fun of the spelling bee while they are backstage in the comfort room, and Gus starts using big words in front of the woman who like curates this or helps like set up the manager of the spelling bee.
He's not
And
doing that. That's
Gus is like,
preposterous.
"This misplaced malevolence you have with the spelling bee is getting monotonous," which sounded funny and it's slightly out of place. But then he calmly follows it up with, "Stop hating on the bee, Sean." And it's I don't know that's so Gus. That's such a
It
Gus
is.
thing to say.
And it
He's
was such a
why are you
Sean
using all
thing to
these big
say.
ass words, Sean? Or why are you using all these big ass words now, Gus? It was perfect. I loved it. It was a true dialogue for these characters.
Absolutely. And I you can even go back to when they were in the office and Sean made reference to like the wood what do you call that? Whittling, like a whittling competition
Mhm,
or things like that, car washing competitions. He's comparing this and you can see Gus is just like, really? So you can the sarcasm between the two of them and their chemistry is insane. So
mhm.
good.
Yes. Yep. The next part of this episode, we see that the spellmaster falls off the balcony onto the seats, and this is when the turning point in the episode starts. This changes it from possible just sabotage to a murder case, and Laster not having it. He still doesn't think that it's a thing. He thinks that it was just poor dieting. He does not think that anything's happened yet.
So can we we're talking about the spell master. Can we go back to when they were sitting in the audience and Gus says, because this is a great moment, and Gus says, "He's the spellmaster, Sean. He's a huge celebrity. He can't sit down here in the crowd with everybody." Like, what?
Yeah, there's like 10 people that think that. Like, he's just a
Nobody,
guy that spells words. That's it. Nobody else cares.
nobody would care that he's
hmm
sitting in the audience with people. I loved that moment. That was funny.
hmm
Uh,
in the scene after they wheel the body out, we do get to see some more Juliet being like revolted by the body, which
mhm,
more character development that she's fresh on the job and she hasn't seen too many bodies. I thought it was interesting pointing out
mhm.
that she had that reaction. They added that in there. Lassie is heading over to talk to the press about the and Juliet tells him to be sensitive. Lassiter jokingly responds with, "How about we don't sell the seat the guy landed on," which is a very Lassie moment. I did like that,
But that
and
was also a
Lass
very Jules moment too, because she
yes,
brings the sensitivity to the team.
the honey to the vinegar,
That's right.
and I'm happy to see that Lassiter is starting to come out more in a funny way instead of just the like angry kind of way.
Mhm.
They're slowly developing him, but he does develop. So if Lassie is not your favorite character yet, it's very possible he will be in the future if you guys are new to the show.
He's one of those that inspires the love-hate relationship thing, though. You're gonna love him
Hmm.
sometimes, you're gonna hate him sometimes. So the next thing we see, Sean and Gus are up in the Spellmaster's booth, trying to figure out what was going on in there. There's things knocked over and all of that. And all of a sudden, Gus starts smelling something. And in this moment, I know, Matthew, you're so excited about this moment because this is the moment that they identify Gus's nose as the super smeller. And he smells that there's like a sulfur smell in the booth and knows something's not right there. This is another case, just like in the first episode, where his pharmaceutical background also is a little bit handy here. So he did get to play a lot in this episode off of his knowledge. And the super smeller is like, this is exciting. This is exciting. He's going to use this
This
power.
is very exciting. The introduction of
Yeah.
the Super Smeller. It's this is a very big deal in the
It's,
episode.
it's a big deal in the series.
I would love to know who came up with the Super Smeller idea. Like, I would love to know if this was a Hill thing, if this was
Mhm.
something that Frank's worked in there. I would love to know the origin of a couple of these weird quirks that they give them. I just think I don't know, it's a perfect thing that comes back and it actually gets used.
And the way he
It's more than just a
sniffs,
silly thing.
oh, no, the
Mhm.
way he sniffs, it's like he is really using a power. It's a fantastic. Y
Yeah, and it's
Yay,
super
Boy
accurate
Hill.
too. Like
Yes.
he's really narrowed it down and it's a very finite ability that
Mhm.
he's honed.
And he's proud of it.
Hmm. I do also like that Sean does not approve of Gus naming his nose, and he tells him to name his butt the Tight Bouncer, which is great name for the butt. I could definitely see it being a thing. Gus is on a date, I call it the Tight Bouncer, and that's it. I could see it. Hmm.
Well, though, you know what? He might not like that he named it that, but he calls it that in future episodes.
Hmm. At the next point, this is when Lassiter has just finished saying that this does not seem like it's a murder. There's nothing to worry about. Everything's fine. Then Sean has an outburst and he
A
tells
dramatic outburst.
the exact opposite of everything Lassiter just said. He screams it into the hall in front of all the news reporters. And the pure look of disdain on Lassiter's face at this time, I love it. Is at
It
1742 if you want to go and check it out. It's just this look of pure just like, "Oh god, I hate these people so much." Just it
I
was perfect.
love that we had the same exact note here because it was like that one look, he did not need to say anything. It was, "Dude, I hate you. Why are you
Yeah,
in my
you
life?
noticed it too? You
Get
had the same
out."
stamp.
Yes. Yes. He was like, "Get out of my life. You are like this case was like the dude had a heart attack. He died. It was so cut and dry for him. He's ready to move on. I solved this case." And here is dramatic Sean throwing himself about. And anyway, just
Mhm.
funny. Just it
Yeah,
was
it
such
was a great
disdain.
look. It was a
Yeah.
perfect look that is just Lassiter reacting to Sean and his shenanigans, and it was
Mhm.
great. At 1812, we see Henry's permanent house now. Much better than the last house. This is the house that will be there for the rest of the show, and I love the house. I think it
And
looks great. The location's fantastic too.
it looks very Henry. It suits
Yes,
him so, so well.
like something
And
he's taken care of.
I'll note here that the reason we're seeing the house is that Sean has gone to Henry for help.
Yep.
He's taken out of the spellmaster's room, he's taken some food samples and needs Henry's help to get those analyzed by a lab.
Mhm.
And he says he'll do anything.
Yep, for the Henry's lesson segment of the show, Henry
Mhm.
wants Sean to finish a job that he said that he would, even one from when he was a child. He wants him to build a doghouse or
He want
finish the one that he started when he was like 13.
he wants him to learn the value of finishing what you start.
Finishing a
Sean
job. Yep.
bounces around to everything, and there'll be lessons in pretty much every episode from Henry. But this one, he just wants Sean to complete something he began.
hmm And the very poor excuse. I do think it was hilarious that Henry kept this crappily built doghouse for like the last 25 years. I thought that was really funny. Sean was 100% accurate there.
I don't think Henry does anything on accident, though. I think he knew later. There's always a reason for something that he's doing.
hmm
It annoys Sean to no end, but there's always a reason. He's going to learn something in the long run.
Yep, I completely agree. Which this scene brings us into our next notable moment. Where's the pineapple? This episode, where's the pineapple at? It's right here at 21:10. Henry comes home at night. It's dark. Sean is working on the doghouse. And what is that in Sean's right hand? It's a slice of pineapple. Boom, right
Boom.
there. He's eating the pineapple. It's a hidden one. That I think that that was definitely a hidden one. That was a hard one to find because not only is it's not super bright out during this scene, but he also has a hammer in the other hand. It's distracting. They're talking. Henry has something in his hand too. He has a coffee in his hand. That was a good episode or a good scene for hide the pineapple.
I did read that James Roday very early on said it was so important for him that there was a pineapple in every single episode, even if it didn't make sense.
hmm I love that. Is a great
Mhm.
thing for like fan interaction with the show.
Absolutely.
It was a great call. I would love to know more about that. I gotta do some
Mhm.
research on the pineapple stuff to see if he gives any more details on like what it was. Was it just some random thing? Did he really like that scene from the
Mhm.
first episode? Very curious about that. I gotta find out more about the
Or
pineapples.
does he just really love pineapple and wanted an excuse to eat it all the time? I
That is
mean,
true. He could be a
who
fan of
knows?
delicious flavor. So
Yeah, well, we all are fans of delicious flavor.
hmm
Yay, pineapple. Um, Next episode or the next scene here is another flashback. It's like a bonus flashback. This one is for young Sean and Henry. This is where he lays out why he was going to build this doghouse in the first place. Sean wanted a dog. His dad told him, "You're if you want to be responsible enough to own a pet, then you've got to build where the pet lives." And so that started the whole thing. So, needless to say, Sean didn't get a dog back then, but there was there was the beginning of the learning. So you see young Henry again and the young Sean.
hmm Henry's hair, fantastic.
Love
Um,
it.
young Sean, still don't like him. He just doesn't look like him, and it throws me off every time I see
Mhm.
him. I can't wait for us to get to the
I have to
next
I have to
actor
be
for him.
honest though. I don't know that any of the young Seans really looked like young Seans to me.
All right. The other ones felt like a young Sean, or I just liked
Yeah.
them better. I don't know. I'm not sure what it was. It just didn't feel right. The next scene is Sean is riding home from his dad's house after being defeated by the doghouse. The look on his face when the doghouse falls apart, like his dad says, "No, this isn't going to cut it." And Henry walks inside, and Sean just looks at it, and he just like taps it with his foot, and the whole thing falls apart.
Mhm.
It's I don't know. It was I thought it was funny. The look on Sean's face is like, yeah, I should have known that wasn't gonna work. Yeah, okay.
There's also a little bit of he was right,
Yeah. Yeah,
you
like, yeah,
know.
he could tell that this wasn't a good build and this wasn't gonna last.
Mhm.
Mhm.
He doesn't like when his dad's right, but his dad's
After
right.
this scene, Sean is riding home on his motorcycle and gets run off the road, and we find out that he's in the hospital. He's
Mhm.
okay, but he did have an accident there, and somebody tried to kill him, which usually means you're on the right track. Sean leaves the hospital to go back to his dad's house to finish the doghouse. So his dad will get the food tested for the poison. This is a good relationship scene for them. When Henry starts to
Mhm.
help with the doghouse, Sean says, "All right, but this is weird," because he doesn't help him, I guess, often. And Henry also says, "Well, you've never asked before." So
true.
Yeah,
Sean
he
always
never
tried to
asked
be
in the past.
independent. He always tried to be independent.
Mhm.
Um,
Um,
but but I will say you do get another one. You remember in the pilot, last week we talked about this, how after he passes the test in the diner and the waitress gives him props about it and his dad says it was adequate. So
yeah.
here we have another one of those moments. And Sean is proud of the doghouse. It looks good. And Henry says, it's not bad.
Mhm. Well, I also wanted to point it out because I just thought that this was when he, I really noticed it when he started to help him, like, um, hammer in the support beam, I think was the line, was when it really kicked in. They're, like, both together, like, hands on it, working on it, and I thought it was
Mhm,
a really good scene because, like, the chemistry between the 2 actors, it was just really good. Like, it felt
mhm,
like a legitimate scene. They had good chemistry together, and it was like a heartwarming scene where there was,
mhm.
the father helping the son. They have their issues, but they're working together on something. I
It also
liked it.
makes you look forward to seeing what happens with them.
Mhm.
Like, and you have hope that, oh, it's gonna get good. They're gonna get good.
And another one of Henry's lessons this episode, well, it kind of falls behind the other one that we had. It's similar, but the quote was, uh, Sean or Henry tells Sean, "You have never completed a thing in your life. Now you have." After they finish the
Mhm,
doghouse, and it leaves Sean speechless, and his reaction to that is funny. It's like he's like, "You're right,
mhm,
but I don't like that you're right." So we're about half. We're a little over halfway through the episode at this point, and when they are in the spellmaster's box, and Sean gives the word banana. So this is the
mhm,
scene where they've broken back into the spellmaster's box because they needed to keep looking for more evidence. And Sean's in there. Sean is in the spellmaster's box, and he is looking through all the stuff on the desk, trying to, find stuff. He sees the indentions on the carpet, and over the intercom up there is the guy telling them to get ready for the next word to be announced. I did not like this scene. Um, this would be my "come on, son" moment. This is my "come on, son" moment for this episode
mhm.
where something happened that we did not like in the
I would agree
episode,
with that. I would agree with that.
because this was a prime time for Gus to step in and help his boy, and he didn't. He
Or
left him hanging.
or wait, not even just factoring in helping Sean. This would have been a moment where Gus could have been the spellmaster.
Exactly, I didn't even think about that. That's
Like
perfect.
like,
Yeah,
I mean, he thinks the spellmaster is a celebrity. He could have been in the chair
this could have been
giving
a
the word.
childhood dream, yes.
Absolutely. Why did they not do that?
Yeah,
I don't know.
this was definitely my "come on, son" moment because it kinda bummed me out whenever Gus didn't help him, especially when he said the first word was "banana," and then Gus sees that he's just reading off the spells master's groceries list. Like, as soon as he saw that, he should have been like, "A juramento." Like, he should have given him something
Something.
to go with
Something.
to not only conceal their cover, not only to keep the integrity of the
Mhm.
spelling bee, but also to fulfill his childhood fantasy of being the spell master.
I mean, at well,
Mhm.
at
I thought it
least
was
the
really great.
word the follow-up word was onion.
Yeah.
So, at least give a word that could still have there were plenty of other words that are humorous words that are difficult to spell. We could have gone in a whole different direction here, guys, but yeah, we got banana and onion.
Mhm. While the scene was funny, it did affect me in that way. I wish
Yeah,
that they would have gone a different direction with that one. Their dynamic, their fighting is still fun to watch.
it's fantastic.
While they are up in the Spellmaster box, they do notice though that the Czech kid, his dad, was being spied on by the Spellmaster, and he found out that there was something going on and that they were cheating. Um, Sean does figure it out. We're at 39 minutes in now, and after the bad guy gets arrested, we found out that Yuri and his father were cheating to get the prize money and also for um, the prestige that comes with having that on your resume for colleges.
Let's talk about though that how that happened because I you can't take away from Sean's presentation here. I mean, when he presents this, I mean, even the chief is like, Why can't he ever just let us arrest them? And, like,
Yeah, it's
it has
almost like
to be
he
a big
does the
protection.
theatrics.
Yeah.
It's almost like
He
he does it when they don't even want it.
they don't want it. He does it because, well, and I think partially he knows that he's gotta keep the ruse going. He can't, it
Mhm,
has to look like it's coming from some psychic place. But at the same time, there's always so much drama around the wrap up of the case, you know?
mhm.
And I particularly loved after he went through this whole thing and, Lassiter was mad and all this, and Jules stepped up to the plate and she's like, "I had the test run." And you saw in that moment that, like, they looked at each other. Sean and Juliet looked at each other, and there was that look that was like, "Okay, she trusts him.
Yeah,
She
that's a
trusts."
good point, see? Yeah, I like that
Mhm.
too, because yeah, the whole thing was building up this, like, thing with them where they are, like they trust each other, and they rely on each other, and they got each other's back from the very
Yes.
beginning. It
And
was good.
even if Lassiter doesn't like it, Jules is gonna step up because
Mhm.
she's like, "Somebody on this team has to listen to something else."
And it's good though, because it also shows that, Juliet will not only take the initiative, but she has the guts to, like, stand up to him and, like, be like, "You know what? Even though you didn't want me to, I still did it because I believed him and I went on my own hunch." It's like she's a strong female lead in the show, and that's a great thing too.
Yeah, she even stood up to the chief because the chief
Yeah.
didn't even order the test, you know?
Mhm.
Yeah. So good for her. Good for Juliet.
But, at this point, we're here, the bad guy's arrested, and Sean explains to Gus that he told him the wrong letter at the spelling bee and made Gus lose on purpose when they were a kid.
You gotta
Um,
love his reasoning though. You gotta love it.
he did it to help Gus not be a nerd all through school.
He said, "This way you got to be the smart kid and the cool kid." The
I don't know how I feel about that. I
the
don't
fa
know how I feel about that.
well, the fact that as such a young person, he put that much thought into what was happening to Gus. I mean,
Mhm.
like, he knew he didn't wanna lose his best friend, but
Yeah.
man, this is another one of those moments where you're just like, "Why, Gus? Why are you still there, man? Why?"
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah, definitely I could see it being, especially for this one, based on what we saw about the other kids in this, they're, like, studying all the time, spelling words all the time. This would definitely be something that could have been put a serious damper on their relationship.
Oh, Sean knew that if he got any further in these spelling bees, he'd be studying all the time too, and then he wouldn't be, doing stuff with him.
Exactly.
Yeah. I mean,
And at the end of the episode, we finish up the episode at Henry's house where Sean thanks him for his help. And to get back at him for making him build a doghouse, Sean brings Henry a gift. He leaves a dog, essentially like staked in the front yard, just barking away inside of the new doghouse, which should also be noted that Henry had out front of his house, prominently displayed next to his entryway.
he was
See?
proud of it.
Yes, he was proud of it. It looked nice, and he had it out there for everybody to see, which is a good thing for Henry. It kind of goes back to his episode one where he was saving the newspaper clippings. He wants to show off his son's accomplishments, and he was actually proud that he finished it. But seeing Henry freak out as an old man was funny,
Yes.
just for his character development. He does it a couple times where he has like his old man moments, but seeing him freak out was funny. Sean, you better not leave this dog here, Sean. I'm going to put him out in the road. He's not going to put him out in the road. It was still a great moment for Henry.
I think Henry's definitely, like, more of one of those actions speak louder than words guys,
Hmm.
he's always gonna show Sean he's proud of him, but it's never gonna be with words.
Hmm.
Or very seldom will it be with words. It's mostly gonna be little things that he does. So, you gotta
Hmm.
love that about Henry. Henry becomes one of my favorite characters. I like Henry a lot.
Yeah, yeah. He's a great side character. I don't know. He's always there for him, and he's also just filled with good information.
Mhm.
I mean, there's plenty of things that I still think about, honestly, from Henry's like lessons throughout the show, like things that I have learned from the show from him that are actually useful pieces of information. I thought it was a great scene, or I thought Henry was a great character.
Yeah, definitely a great character. How do you think this episode holds up over time for you, Matt?
I thought it was a great episode, specifically because it's the first time it really expanded on all the characters and cut out all the stuff that I didn't like from the first episode. The story was interesting, and the character interactions were still funny to me, even after I've seen the show several times. I was mainly just very excited though that it feels more like the show now, holding up over time. I think it was great. I don't think there was anything that really like dates the show. I don't think there was anything that was done time and time again that makes it like look cliche or anything like that. I
Oh,
think it was
I
great.
agree 100% with that.
Hmm.
I was gonna say too, I think the spelling bee, National Spelling Bee still happens every year, and I think now the one difference is probably, like, now it would be a lot easier to cheat with
Oh
technology
yeah.
than it is. I mean, they probably have to have so many more regulations than badges. I mean, I'm sure is a lot easier to do at this point, but other than that, I didn't see anything that dated the show. I everything held up.
Actually, while speaking about that, I do think that was actually a pretty cool, ingenious way to cheat for the episode. Essentially,
Mhm.
like Morse code through a static type, like a electric shock in an inhaler. That was a really interesting way to cheat in the show that we didn't see coming. Even if you knew that the check kid was off, you probably still wouldn't have necessarily guessed that it was like shocking him and that they had like learned Morse code together as like a father and son. So I still think that that actually is a good point as far as the cheating goes. It was an
Yeah,
interesting and like a well thought idea for the episode. So
definitely.
mhm.
And we gotta hold true to our theme of food because there's food in every episode, not just the pineapple. But this time it was all about the Spellmaster's food and the
Okay,
bad choices he was making.
so not food that they were eating, but food mentions. Yep,
Yeah, because I mean, I
banana
didn't see the
and
food they were
onion.
eating. Banana and onion, and also how the Spellmaster was poisoned. So you had the Chinese food. He picks up a donut at one point in there. There's just all kinds of bad things happening. Lassie's eating popcorn in this episode. So there's definitely food throughout.
Food mentions.
Yeah, absolutely. There always will be in Psych. So this is it for this episode. Thank you guys so much for joining us. We hope you come back and listen more. Next week, we'll be discussing episode 3 from season 1. And that episode is called Speak Now or Forever Hold Your Peace.
Don't forget to check us out on the Facebook group. If you search us on there, it's We Know You Know Ellipses, a podcast about psych. We're gonna post things on there whenever the show's coming out. We'll post questions, anything like that. You can leave comments there as well.
Or you can find us on Instagram at the Psych Podcast.
No spaces.
No spaces.
Or you can email us on using our Gmail account, thepsychpodcast@gmail.com. Also, no spaces or underscores.
Until next week, everyone. Bye.
Thank you for listening and have a good day, guys.